for the president-elect. Trump says he's going to remain on the payroll of NBC as executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice while he is in the White House. What does that mean? There are 42 days to go until the inauguration. Got it all covered. Let's begin with CNN's Sunlen Serfati live in Washington. Sunlen.
Good morning to you, Chris. Well, this is real uncharted territory here for a president, certainly raising a lot of questions. Once Donald Trump takes the oath of office, the nation will have a president who will still be a part of and still have his name listed in the credits of a reality show. All this as Trump hits the road in full force, defending the people he's chosen for his cabinet.
Reveling in a crowd of thousands in Iowa.
Do you like it so far, everybody?
President-elect Donald Trump defending his cabinet appointments.
I want people that made a fortune because now they're negotiating with you.
Touting the success of some of his wealthy picks.
It's no different than a great baseball player or a great golfer.
Including Carl's Jr. and Hardee's executive Andy Puzder to head the Labor Department. Puzder is a staunch critic of paid mandatory sick leave, is against expanding overtime pay and increasing the minimum wage.
States have every right to decide what the minimum wage should be. I've been opposed to minimum wage increases that kill jobs.
Trump saying in a statement that Puzder, quote, will save small businesses from the crushing burdens of unnecessary regulations. Meantime, scrutiny is growing over Trump's pick to head the EPA, Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt.
He's a climate science denier.
At his third victory rally in Des Moines, Trump echoing Pruitt's call to roll back environmental regulations.
And we are going to end the EPA intrusion into your lives.
And doubling down on campaign promises, including immigration.
I've used the expression extreme vetting. Extreme, oh, it's going to be extreme. Oh, there's going to be doors on the wall, big, beautiful doors.
Trump also calling for improving U.S. relations with China.
They haven't played by the rules. And I know it's time that they're going to start.
As he formally rolled out his pick to be U.S. ambassador to China, Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, a longtime friend of the Chinese president.
The man who knows China and likes China. Better to like China if you're going to be over there. Do we agree?
All this as all eyes are on two big announcements coming next week. Potentially the president-elect's choice for Secretary of State and a news conference on Thursday to address potentially backing away from his family business. But the incoming president is keeping his ties to Celebrity Apprentice, the NBC reality show he launched nearly 15 years ago. Sources tell CNN Trump will stay on as executive producer of the show and continue being paid as he is in the Oval Office, raising even more questions about the growing list of conflicts between his business dealings and the presidency.
And this morning at Trump Tower, the president-elect will be meeting with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat potentially being considered for a cabinet post. Then Trump will be spending most of the day on the road. He'll be going to Louisiana for their state Republican Get Out the Vote rally there, and on to Michigan, Chris, for another stop of his thank you tour.
The Manchin meeting, something to watch. See what the senator says coming out of that meeting. All right, let's discuss what's going on with CNN political analysts Rebecca Berg, Kirsten Powers, and David Gregory. Kirsten Powers, Donald Trump staying as EP of The Apprentice while President of the United States. Controversy, non-controversy?
I think it's a controversy. My initial reaction to it was that I thought it was pretty insane. And then I was sort of moved by the arguments that people were making that, no, this is just like getting royalties from a book. But then when I thought about it more, it's actually not just like getting royalties from a book, because a book is written, it's out there, people buy it. It's not an ongoing situation. Now, if he's saying, I'm just going to take money, but I'm not going to be in any way involved in the Celebrity Apprentice, okay, I guess. I still think it's inappropriate. Them sitting and watching television and you see the credits rolling and the President of the United States is on the credits. I just don't think it's appropriate for the President of the United States. I also am not sure I entirely buy the idea that Donald Trump will stay out of it. That if he sees things that he doesn't like that's going on, do we believe that he's actually not going to involve himself? I find that hard to believe.
But all right, so David, let's follow through on Kirsten's thinking. Let's say he does keep some type of minor role of oversight on the show, saying what he likes and what he doesn't. Of course, most of it's pre-shot, so it's not like he'd have to follow it around in real time. But that the definition of president has changed. It's defined by who is in the office, and this time it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're pre-taped, but you can still imagine a kind of live tweeting party led by the President of the United States. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with Kirsten on this. I don't mind the money as much. I think it's just a question of whether it's unseemly. This is the presidency. This is an institution that's bigger than Donald Trump. I was saying when we talked about this earlier this morning, I remember when everybody freaked out because people in the Obama administration didn't wear their coat jacket or their blazer in the Oval Office, like Ronald Reagan insisted upon doing. Well, I think this is a new area where you have a president who tweets the way he does and who's going to associate himself as president with an ongoing reality show.
All right, well, this is, a lot of this is going to be about how it's perceived by the people in the country. We'll see when we get a reaction to that. Rebecca, let me pivot with you to something else that's going to be different with Donald Trump as president of the United States. Let me play you some sound of what he teed up last night about why he likes talking to CEOs and what will make him more effective than other presidents. Listen to this.
I actually love calling these companies. I said, give me a list of 10 companies that are leaving. And I actually love calling these companies and saying hi. And I get the president of this company. And I say, hi, how you doing? Oh, hello, Mr. President-elect. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. By the way, while we're on the phone, don't leave. Please don't leave. Please. And we've had great success. You'll be seeing a lot more success.
So interesting there, Rebecca. He's suggesting he's already making these calls. But what do you think about the plus minus of the president picking up the phone and talking to these companies directly?
Well, there are a few elements to this, Chris, in my mind. First, I think even Republicans would be pretty uncomfortable in the long term with the idea of the President of the United States using the power of his office on a company-by-company basis to encourage these companies to stay in this country. I think what lawmakers on both sides of the aisle would rather see is the President address the underlying problems here in the market, in the economy, and actually make some policy changes with Congress to encourage these companies to stay, not to be working against their best economic interests. And so that's actually a Republican criticism I've heard of this carrier deal that he made, is that President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence aren't necessarily addressing the underlying economic issues here, and they're actually encouraging carrier potentially to make a decision that goes against its best economic interests. So that in the long term could be problematic for Trump. But then there's also this issue of someone who ran a very populist campaign appealing to the American worker, and then running an administration that sounds like it's going to be a very pro-business, pro-big corporation sort of administration. Then you worry politically, if you're Donald Trump, are you ignoring the American worker at the expense of these, to quote Bernie Sanders, millionaires and billionaires?
Well, why doesn't it play the other way, Kirsten, which is, to the American worker out there, he said, oh, good, he's doing something for us. He's picking up the phone, he's talking to these companies. He's one of these big shots like the rest of the ones. He can get him on the phone and strong-arm them, and he's doing it for us. I
actually support what he's doing, and I wrote a column actually defending him. So, I think that this is exactly what people want to see. They want to see people who are involved. It's true that it's not addressing the underlying problem. 85% of these jobs are not lost because they're going to other countries. They're lost because of automation. But look, these are still jobs. These are still jobs that matter. And if he can work with these companies and try to figure out how to keep them in the country, I also think it's fine for him to give them tax credits. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, when you break down how
economists
much money,
will debate that.
Well, I think, when you break down how much money, you look at the carrier deal, for example, over 10 years, we're talking about $700 or $800 in tax credits per employee.
Economists say some economists say it's a false analysis.
I say, why?
Because they say that prorating $7 million over 10 years, $700,000 a year, dividing it by the number of jobs, doesn't take into consideration any of the economic costs of benefiting one company over another, gifting money to a highly profitable company to the disadvantage of its competitors, its labor base.
Are these like libertarian economists, conservative economists?
No, they're people who look at raw numbers in terms of what can you do to push manufacturing.
Because I think that you have to do something, because the truth is that there's a cost to the company to stay in the United States. They can leave.
True.
They can pay $20 an hour here, or they can pay $4 an hour in Mexico. So you're going to have to give them some kind of incentive to stay here.
True.
I just want to make an observation. You've gotten two different views on this. I'm not going to make a judgment about it, but I want to offer this observation. Trump is doing a lot thus far to keep people off balance. There's an unpredictability, a disruptive influence. We don't know exactly where this goes in a couple of different areas. We can talk about with regard to China, which we may get to. In this case, he's both the populist and the corporate guy. Right? He'll call these companies and say, don't move your jobs. I'm looking after the workers. Keep the jobs here. And on the other hand, he might dismantle regulations that have to do with protecting workers. So, so that they kind of defend more corporate interests. I think that dynamic is something that's striking so far.
And in truth, the answer to both different perspectives from Rebecca and Kirsten is to address your concerns, whether conservative or in terms of the baseline economics for workers, is who's on that list of companies that he calls. They should be, according to most economic consensus, new energy / new industry companies who are thinking of going abroad, because those are actual jobs that you could put existing manufacturing worker base into through retraining. Kirsten, Rebecca, David, thank you very much. Coming up on New Day, President-elect Trump's senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, is going to be here in just minutes to explain where they are on the issues that matter. Allison.
Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton making a rare public appearance in Washington. This was at a ceremony honoring outgoing Senator Harry Reid. She weighed in on the growing problem of bogus online conspiracies and fake stories. She called this an epidemic.
That so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk.
Of course, a gunman who was self-investigating, as he said, one of those viral bogus stories about Clinton and her campaign staff, opened fire at a Washington, D.C. pizza parlor on Sunday. Clinton is calling on Congress to support legislation to combat this problem. And a dramatic testimony in day 2 of the Dylann Roof murder trial. Jurors shown disturbing images of the aftermath of the Charleston church massacre, including video of Roof arriving at the church and then leaving the church moments after allegedly killing 9 people. One of the victims' mothers taking the stand, saying Roof belongs in the, quote, pits of hell.
All right, so the first family, President-elect Trump, fellow astronauts, all honoring the extraordinary life of space pioneer and longtime Senator John Glenn Hero. He was the first American, of course, to orbit the Earth. He died Thursday at an Ohio hospital at the age of 95. Let's give you just a little look, just a taste of an incredible life.
Godspeed, John Glenn.
He was the last of the Mercury 7, a founding figure of the U.S. space program. John Glenn hurtled into history aboard the Friendship 7 spacecraft in 1962. The lone astronaut took off, becoming the first American to orbit the Earth.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Oh, that view is tremendous.
Those close to him remember his bravery.
Think about this. He's sitting on a rocket that had failed twice in some of the previous tests, and nobody had ever done that before. He's going at this incredible speed, and he's looking out the window and admiring the view.
Glenn celebrated as an American hero, earning the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. His legacy so great, the government decided he was too valuable to risk in another space flight. Glenn retired from NASA in 1964 and won a Senate seat in 1974, representing Ohio, where he served for 24 years. In 1984, he ran for president.
With the nomination of my party, I firmly believe I can beat Ronald Reagan.
He lost the Democratic nomination, but went on to succeed in a new endeavor. After 36 years, Glenn's dream of returning to space had finally come true. Proving at age 77 he had one more mission left in him, Glenn became the oldest person in space aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery in 1998. A legend in his own time, Glenn was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2012. Overnight, flags at the U.S. Capitol lowered to half-staff in the wake of his passing. Respect for a man with a lifetime of remarkable achievements. A combat pilot in 2 wars, U.S. Senator, astronaut. Few parallel the extraordinary life of John Glenn.
You know, people have looked up for tens of thousands of years and wondered what was up there. In our lifetime, we're going up there. What a fortunate time we are, and what a great time in history to be around.
Man who lived the collective dream of an entire country, you know, to be in outer space. He did it.
The courage that it took to do something like that. I just love watching those old film clips and seeing his face, you know, through the years. 95 years. Wow, what a life. Well, Donald Trump vowing to eliminate his conflicts of interest, but he seems in no hurry to cut ties with his business empire. So what is his plan? That's next on New Day.